Let me scooch my chair closer. I feel like I'm a little too far. Too far away. Hello? Hello? Am I too close? Who cares? Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Brady Rose with Lambda Library. It's been a while since I've been a little bit 3D. Hello, Blue Chips, welcome. But here we are. We can move and everything. It's so good. We can gesticulate while we read. Yeah. But first thing we have to do is my 10,000 books challenge. We need to keep that going, otherwise I will never leave this library ever. Unless I do a lot of work to do so. I can leave the library, but there's a lot of work involved, and I don't want to have to do that work anymore. So we gotta do our 10,000 books. This is everything I've read so far, and I've read maybe like 4 things I think this week that we can add. So first thing I'm gonna get in. Teenage Mercenary. I've been reading so much of this goddamn webtoon. You don't even know. I just eat it. I get into it and then I can't stop. So let's add that. A lot of webtoon and comics. Yes, that counts as reading. We celebrate all forms of reading on this channel. Just because it's not a novel doesn't mean it's not reading. We celebrate it all. Hello, Alexis. Yep. Good day. 10,000 books. Yes, that's how many I was told to read when I entered the Forbidden Library via a magical portal. Have you read about the graphic novel saga? No, but I've seen it. I've seen it in many a bookshop, and it is very interesting. I read the second Percy Jackson. That's a book. The Sea of Monsters. Sea of Monsters. That is by Rick Riordan. And that's a novel series. I read it this year. 223. I also, oh wait, I'm gonna need the info for this one. I don't think I added it to, did I add it last week? No, I didn't. Okay. So I read a tale of Arthurian telling that I need to find on my playlists and stuff because I have no idea who wrote it. I just read it. God, there it is. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. You may have there's a movie of that, which is weird and a lot more horny than the actual book. Because if we have a chance to make things horny as humans, we do that. So Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I'm going to call this a short story because it wasn't really that long. It was like a 2-hour audiobook I listened to, so it's like barely enough to really call itself a novel. So that is what it's called. Apparently it was by Simon Itich. Or at least that's the translator. It's an old ass bit of mythology, I guess. Bit of Arthurian mythology, so I suppose you can't say who actually did it. But that's, the credit was given to that guy on Audible, so that's where I'll put my credits to. Last but not least, another comic book, 224. Called The Parliament of Rooks. It's a bit spoopy. It's a spoopy comic. I didn't think I'd like it, but I saw like the cover art in my local comic book shop for the 3rd issue. So I picked up the 1st issue, and it's very nice. It's very Edgar Allan Poe, I suppose, I think would be a good way to explain it. Nice black and white and very atmospheric art, methinks. Abigail Jill. I'm trying to get into creative writing. Reading is way more relaxing. I don't know. I like writing a lot. It's the editing that's the hardest part for me. Floppies or trade for comics? Both. This one in particular is a floppy. Some of them are trades. I have the trades for some of the Sonic comics that I'm working through. But I have a lot of floppies. I have all the Red Hood and Arsenals, they're floppies. I have a shit ton of Super Sons floppies to get through. I also love calling them floppies. I've never heard someone call them that, and I love it. Harding. And let's put a little space between them. Richard Starkey's series, and it was 2025 that I read that. In the past, I've written some poems. Writing stories hard. It is. It takes a little dedication. I had a friend a long time ago who only wrote like snippets and stuff. He couldn't quite get himself to sit down to write a whole story. And if that's how you enjoy it, that's always a good place to start. And then you could always like put the snippets together. Increase my mic volume? I can do that, no worries. La 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 la. There we go. Yeah, cutting chaff and moving plot points around is mentally taxing due to mental focus. Yes, it is, but it's fun. It's fun when you're writing and then your characters just do things that you didn't expect. And you're like, why? It's like you're reading the book and writing it at the same time. It's magical. Right, so how many does that? So 224 brings me to 776, I think. 9,776 to go. Also, we've counted in this list for those SCPs. Like, I could technically get through these 10k on SCPs alone. But we're not taking the piss. Anyway, the book, you know, what we're here for. The actual book. We're on chapter 5. Where's my water bottle? I'm sure I brought that in. How did I do this? How did I lose my... I literally went down to get my water bottle 2 seconds ago before we started streaming, and I found it. It was just in a slightly different part of my desk. Hydrate before we dihydrate. And shall we begin? The Last of the Blind Man. Oh, we should probably do a small recap first, actually. That would be nice. So what's happened is our good old Jim, he was looking after a pirate man in his inn. His dad unfortunately passed away due to illness and stress because this pirate man was not really helping their business at all. And then a blind man came along and he gave this pirate the black spot and then he immediately died. I posted a couple of chapters online. I like seeing how people react to my story. Is this what people mean when they say having a god complex? Maybe. Some writers definitely have god complexes, that much is for sure. So, Jim and his mum went through their stuff, but realized there was a lot of people coming for this mysterious chest that the pirate had brought to their inn. So they went through it. His mum felt the need to count out everything and only take how much they were owed for his stay in the inn. And Jim took a map, I think, and they were trying to escape. But Mother was a woman, therefore she was getting excited, and she passed out through all the excitement because women do that. Especially in these oldie tales, they do. But for now, the last of the blind man. My curiosity, in a sense, was stronger than my fear, for I could not remain where I was, but crept back to the bank again, whence, sheltering my hand behind a bush of broom, I might command the road before our door. I was scarcely in position ere my enemies began to arrive, 7 or 8 of them, running hard, their feet beating out of time along the road, and the man with the lantern some paces in front. 3 men ran together hand in hand, and I made out, even through the mist, that the middle man of this trio was the blind beggar. The next moment his voice showed me I was right. "Down with the doors!" he cried. "Aye, aye, sir!" answered 2 or 3, and in a rush was made upon the Admiral Benbow, the lantern-bearer following, and then I could see them pause, and hear their speeches passed in a lower key, as if they were surprised to find the door open. But the pause was brief, for the blind man again issued his commands. His voice sounded louder and higher, as if he were afire with eagerness and rage. "In! In! In!" he shouted, and cursed them for their delay. 4 or 5 of them obeyed at once, 2 remaining on the road with the formidable beggar. There was a pause, then a cry of surprise, and then a voice shouting from the house, "Bill's dead!" But the blind man swore at them again for their delay. "Search him! Some of you shrinking lubbers, the rest of you aloft and get the chest!" he cried. I could hear their feet rattling up our old stairs, and that the house must have shook with it. Promptly afterwards, fresh sounds of astonishment arose. The window of the captain's room was thrown open with a slam and a jingle of broken glass. A man leaned out into the moonlight, head and shoulders, and addressed the blind beggar on the road below him. "Pew!" he cried. "They've been before us. Someone's turned the chest out aloft." "Is it in there?" roared Pew. "The money's in there." The blind man cursed the money. "Flint's fist, I mean," he cried. "We don't see it here anyhow," returned the man. "Here, you below there. Is it on, Bill?" cried the blind man again. At that, another fellow, probably him who had remained below to search the captain's body, came to the door of the inn. "Bill's been overhauled already," said he. "Nothing left." "It's these people at the inn. It's that boy. Oh, I wish I'd put his eyes out," cried the blind man Pew. "There's no time ago. They had the door bolted when I tried. Scatter, lads, and find 'em." Sure enough, they left their glimmer, said the fellow from the window. "Scatter and find 'em, rout the house," reiterated Pew, striking his stick upon the road. Then there followed a great to-do, although through the inn. A great to-do. I love to-do. Why don't we use to-do again? This stream is a great to-do. I want that to be used as a verb again. Then there followed a great to-do through our old inn, heavy feet pounding to and fro, furniture thrown over, doors kicked in, until the very rocks re-echoed, and the man came out again, one after another, on the road, and declared that we were nowhere to be found. And just the same whistle that had alarmed my mother and myself over the dead captain's money was once more clearly audible through the night, but this time twice repeated. I had thought it to be the blind man's trumpet, so to speak, summoning his crew to the assault, but I now found it was a signal from the hillside towards the hamlet, and from its effect upon the buccaneers, a signal to warn them of approaching danger. "There's Dirk again," said one. "Twice! We'll have to budge, mates." "Budge? You shulk! You skulk! cried Pew. "Dirk was a fool and a coward from the first. You wouldn't mind him. They must be close by. They can't be far. You have your hands on it. Scatter and look for them dogs. Oh, shiver my soul," he cried, "if I had eyes." This appeal seemed to produce some effect, for 2 of the fellows began to look here and there among the lumber, and half-heartedly, I thought, and with half an eye to their own danger all the time, while the rest stood irresolute on the road. You have your hands on thousands, you fools, and you hang a leg? You'd be as rich as kings if you could find it, and you know it's here, and you stand there skulking. There wasn't one of you dared faced Bill, and I did, a blind man. And I'm to lose my chance for you? I'm to be a poor crawling beggar sponging for rum, when I might be rolling in a coach? If you had the pluck of a weevil in a biscuit, you would catch them still. Huh. Agate, Pew. We've got the doubloons, grumbled one. They might have hid the blessed thing, said another. Take the Georges, Pew, and don't stand here squalling. Squalling was the word for it. Pew's anger was so high at these objections, till at last, his passion completely taking the upper hand, he struck at them right and left, in his blindness with his stick, sounded heavily on more than one. These, in their turn, cursed back at the blind miscreant, threatened him in horrid terms, and tried in vain to catch the stick and wrest it from his grasp. This quarrel was the savings of us, for while I was still raging, another sound came from the top of the hill, on the side of the hamlet, the tramp of horses galloping. Almost at the same time, a pistol shot, flash and report, came from the hedge side, and that was plainly the last signal of danger, for the buccaneers turned at once and ran, separating in every direction, one seaward along the cove, one slant across the hill, and so on, so that in half a minute not a sign of them remained but Pew. Him they had deserted, whether in sheer panic or out of revenge for his ill words and blows, I know not. But there he remained, behind, tapping up and down the road in a frenzy, and groping and calling for his comrades. Finally he took a wrong turn, and ran a few steps past me, towards the hamlet, crying, "Johnny Black Dog Dirk!" and other names. "You won't leave old Pew, mates, not old Pew." Ah, Lucas. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming to your first stream of mine. I hope you enjoy the pirate voices. At this, Pew saw his error. Oh, no. Just then the noise of horses topped the rise, and 4 or 5 riders came in sight in the moonlight and swept at a full gallop down the slope. A classic read, I see, where Treasure Planet was based on. Yes, I keep forgetting. I keep calling it Treasure Planet because I really liked Treasure Planet. I really did. It's such a good movie. But it's not called Treasure Planet, it's Treasure Island. And I can't be accidentally calling it Treasure Planet all the time. At this, Pew saw his error, turned with a scream and ran straight for the ditch, into which he rolled, but he was on his feet again in a second, and made another dash, now utterly bewildered, right under the nearest of the coming horses. The rider tried to save him, but in vain. Down went Pew with a cry that rang into the night, and the 4 hoofs trampled and spurned him, and passed by. He fell onto his side, then gently collapsed upon his face, and moved no more. I didn't expect some murder at the start of this stream, but you know. Always enjoyed the narrators that get into good characters. Pleased to listen, and happy to see folks reading classics. Yes, I didn't read many classics growing up, so I'm kind of using this channel as an excuse to read some of the stuff that I missed when I was younger. I leapt to my feet and hailed the riders. They were pulling up at any rate, horrified at the accident, and I soon saw what they were. One, tailing out behind the rest, was a lad that had gone from the hamlet to Dr. Livesley. The rest were revenue officers, whom he had met on the way, and with whom he had the intelligence to return at once. Some news of the lugger in Kit's Hole had found its way to supervise a dance, and set him forth at night in our direction, and to that circumstance my mother and I owed our preservation from death. Pew was dead, stone dead. As for my mother, when we had carried her up the hamlet, a little cold water and salts, and that soon brought her back again, and she was none the worse for her terror, though she still continued to deplore the balance of the money. Bless this woman. No, he's been an asshole to us the whole time, but we can't take more money than we owed. My gosh, son, we are not thieves. Although, I should go by the undeniable universal law of finders keepers. She should find us. She deserves it. She lost her husband to this. Hydrate will do. Undeniable law of finders keepers. That's what Jim's done. That's why he has the map. Stone. Yeah, here we go. Not thieves, but great archaeological explorers. Very similar. In the meantime, the supervisor rode on, as fast as he could, to Kit's Hole, but his men had to dismount and grope down the dingle, leading to sometimes supporting their horses, and in continual fear of ambushes. So it was no great matter for surprise that when they got down to the hole, the lugger was already under way, though still close in. He hailed her. A voice replied, telling him to keep out of the moonlight, or he would get some lead in him, or he'd get some lead in him. And at the same time a bullet whistled close by his arm. Soon after, the lugger doubled the point and disappeared. Mr. Dance stood there, as he said, like a fish out of water, and all he could do was to dispatch a man to warn the cutter. And that, he said, is about as good as nothing. They've got to clean... They've got off clean, and there's an end. Only, he added, I'm glad I trod on Master Pew's corns. For by this time he had heard my story. I went back with him to the Admiral Benbow, and you cannot imagine a house in such a state of smash. United state of smash. The very clock had been thrown down by these fellows in their furious hunt after my mother and myself, and though nothing had actually been taken away except the captain's money bag and a little silver from the till, I could see at once that we were ruined. Mr. Dance could make nothing of the scene. They got the money, you say? Well, then, Hawkins, what in fortune were they after? More money, I suppose. No, sir, not money, I think, replied I. In fact, sir, I believe I have the thing in my breast pocket, and to tell you the truth, I should like to get it put in safety. It's a state you don't see every day. Indeed. You should try to avoid the state of smash. To be sure, boy, quite right, said he. I'll take it, if you like. I thought perhaps Dr. Livesley, I began. Perfectly right, he interrupted very cheerfully. Perfectly right. A gentleman and a magistrate. And now I have come to think of it, I might as well ride round there myself and report to him or squire. Master Pew's dead, when all's done. Not that I regret it, but he's dead, you see, and people will make it out against an officer of His Majesty's revenue, if make it out they can. Now, I'll tell you, Hawkins, if you like. I'll take you along. So make it out against him? So they People are holding authorities responsible for murdering people. Amazing. I thanked him heartily for the offer, and we walked back to the hamlet where the horses were. By the time I told Mother of my purpose, they were all in the saddle. "Dodger," said Mr. Dance, "you have a good horse. Take up this lad behind you." As soon as I was mounted, holding on to Dodger's belt, the supervisor gave the word. Sorry, I had an image, because you know when you get onto a horse with someone, you'd normally, like, ride up against them and you'd have to, like, hug them? But no, that would be gay. We have to hold the belt. Or is he holding the belt at both sides, like holding his waist? I don't know. It's not described amazingly. What would be the way to ride double horsey in this time and not be gay? Pirates are civilized to agree. Just because they break the laws doesn't mean they can't have a ticket. Exactly. Honor among the thieves. Well, this isn't even the pirates. This is the magistrates. This is the This is the government. The government. As soon as I was holding on to Dodger's belt, the supervisor gave the word, and the party snuck out at a bouncing trot on the road to Dr. Livesey's house. Da-da-da! Chapter 6. The Captain's Papers. We rode hard all the way till we drew up before Dr. Livesey's door. The house was all dark to the front. Mr. Dance told me to jump down and knock, and Dodger gave me a stirrup to descend by. The door was opened almost at once by the maid. I see it more as a means to keep the horse. More as a means of the horse to keep stable. The equine needs weight balancing. That's true. Very true. Intelligence. Is Dr. Livesey in? I asked. No, she said. He had come home in the afternoon, but had gone to the hall to dine and pass the evening with the squire. So there we go, boys, said Mr. Dance. This time, as the distance was short, I did not mount, but ran with Dodger's stirrup leather to the lodge gates, and up the long, leafless, moonlit avenue to where the white line of the hall buildings looked on either hand on great old gardens. Here Mr. Dance dismounted, and taking me along with him, was admitted at a word into the house. The servant led us down a matted passage, and showed us at the end into a great library, all lined with bookcases and busts upon the top of them, where the squire and Dr. Livesey sat, pipe in hand on either side of a bright fire. Yes, when I read Pride and Prejudice, that one had a lot of illustrations too. It was really good. It adds to it. We only have like light novels that do this shit anymore. We should have more pictures in books. Books should have more pictures. Sorry, I think I knocked something. Or manuals. Manuals definitely need pictures. Come in, Mr. Dance, he says, very stately and condescending? Does condescending not have the same connotations in this that it does for us? Because condescending is a negative word for us. Does condescending not have that negativeness in this bit of work? Because why would he be condescending? I don't know. Mysteries. English language mysteries. Good evening, Dance, says the doctor with a nod. And good evening to you, my friend Jim. Friend Jim. What good wind brings you here? The supervisor stood up straight and stiff and told his story like a lesson, and you should have seen how the two gentlemen leaned forward and looked at each other, and forgot to smoke in their surprise and interest. When they heard how my mother went back to the inn, Dr. Livesey fairly slapped his thigh, and the squire cried, "Bravo!" and broke his long pipe against the grate. Long before it was done, Dr. Trelawney, I think it's similar to that of the old slang, Janes and Johns were all the rage. That, you will remember, was the squire's name. Thank you for putting that. We'd never be able to do that nowadays. If like a serious book put in brackets, by the way, this is this character's name, it would get ripped to shit nowadays. The crap you could get away with. That you remember is the squire's name. Thank you, Mr. Trelawney. Had gotten up from his seat and was striding about the room, and the doctor, as if to hear the better, had taken off his powdered wig, and sat there looking very strange indeed, with his own close-cropped black poll. At last, Dr. Dance finished the story. Mr. Dance, sorry, I keep saying doctor. Yes, modern sensibilities. It's kind of why I like reading classics so much. I love seeing like the different sensibilities, how the different ways that we have learned to approach narratives now. We're so obsessed with the sort of show not tell thing that we never think to do that anymore in more modern writing. But it doesn't take away from the story. It's fine. It's just I love it. I love it. I love the differences. It's exciting. Mr. Dance, said the squire, you are a very noble fellow, and as for riding down that black, atrocious miscreant, I regard it as an act of virtue, sir, like stamping on a cockroach. This lad Hawkins is a trump. I perceive. Hawkins, will you ring that bell? Mr. Dance, you must have some ale. And so, Jim, said the doctor, you have the thing that they were after, have you? Here it is, sir, said I, and I gave him the oilskin packet. The doctor looked it all over, as his fingers were itching to open it, but instead of doing that, he put it quietly into the pocket of his coat. Squire, said he, when Dance has had his ale, he must, of course, be off on his Majesty's service, but I mean to keep Jim Hawkins here to sleep at my house, and with your permission, I propose we should have the cold pie and let him sup. As you will, Livesley, said the squire. Hawkins has earned better than cold pie. So a big pigeon pie was brought in and put on a side table, and I was made a hearty supper, for I was hungry as a hawk, while Mr. Dance was further complimented and at last dismissed. And now, squire, said the doctor. And now, Livesley, said the squire in the same breath. I kind of ship these two. Is squire like the word for the man I keep around because I can't call him my partner? Ye old manner of speaking is what I miss, honestly. It's quite fun to write when incredibly ridiculous scenes or horror. Oh, it is perfect with horror. Hi, normal size phantom. The only person who's died is the blind man got trampled by a horse. But no one else has died yet. Yet. One at a time, laughed Dr. Livesey. You have heard of this Flint, I suppose? Heard of him? Cried the squire. Heard of him, you say? He was the bloodthirstiest buccaneer that sailed. Blackbeard was a child to Flint. The Spaniards were so prodigiously afraid of him that, I tell you, sir, I was sometimes proud he was an Englishman. I've seen his top sails with these eyes, off Trinidad, and the cowardly son of a rum puncheon that I sailed and put back, sir, into the port of Spain. Well, I've heard of him myself in England, said the doctor. But the point is, he had money. Sucks to be blind. Sucks to be an asshole and blind. Mostly an asshole. Money, said the squire. Have you heard the story? What were these villains after but money? What did they care for but money? For what would they risk their rascal carcasses but money? Rascal carcasses. Oh, that's a good... how would you risk your rascal carcass? I like that phrase. Trinidad. Morgan would be laughing. He wasn't impaled. That we shall know, replied the doctor, but you are so confoundedly hot-headed and exclamatory that I cannot get a word in. What I want to know is this. Supposing that I have here in my pocket some clue to where Flint buried his treasure, will that treasure amount to much? The one piece, you say? Amount, sir! Cried the squire. It will amount to this. If we have the clue you talk about, I fit out a ship in Bristol Dock, and take you and Hawkins here along, and I'll have that treasure if I search a year. Very well, said the doctor. Now then, if Jim is agreeable, we'll open the packet. And he laid it before him on the table. The bundle was sewn together, and the doctor had to get out his instrument case and cut the stitches with his medical scissors. It contained two things, a book and a sealed paper. First of all, we'll try the book, observed the doctor. Would you risk your rascal carcass for a Klondike bar? I would risk my rascal carcass for some cookie dough. Some edible warm cookie dough. I would do that. The squire and I were both peering over his shoulder as he opened it, for Dr. Livesey had kindly motioned me to come round from the side table where I had been eating to enjoy the sport of the search. On the first page there were only some scraps of writing, such as a man with a pen in his hand might make for idleness or practice. One was the same as the tattoo mark, Billy Bones, his fancy. Then there was Mr. W. Bones, mate. No more rum. Off Palm Key, he got it. And some other scratches, mostly single words and unintelligible. I could not help but wonder who it was that had got it. And what was it with two T's? Very important, the two T's. Was it what it was he got? A knife in his back, as like as not. Not much instruction there, said Dr. Livesey as he passed on. The next 10 or 12 pages were filled with a curious series of entries. There was a date at one end of the line, and at the other a sum of money, as in common account books, but instead of explanatory writing, only a varying number of crosses between the two. On the 12th of June, 1745, for instance, a sum of £70 had plainly become due to someone, and there was nothing but 6 crosses to explain the cause. In a few cases, to be sure, the name of a place would be added as Offe Caracas, or a mere entry of latitude and longitude, such as 62 degrees, 17 inches, and that's not inches, I know, 1720, or 19 degrees, 240. Squire is an older term from what I've seen. I think it's similar to underclassman or cohort. That makes sense, because like the other way I know the word squire is like a knight squire, like an apprentice knight. So I guess, is this Dr. Livesley's student of a kind? I'm gonna ship them and say that it's a gay thing, but factually, it's probably an educational thing. Since he's a magistrate and a doctor, he's probably got a lot of knowledge to like spread to the world. So Mr. Trelawney is learning all that, or maybe he's like an assistant. That would also make sense, because like the knight and the squire is like an assistant to the knight, so maybe he's assistant to the doctor and magistrate. Nabi. The record lasted nearly 20 years, the amount of the separate entries growing larger as time went on, and at the end a grand total had been made out after 5 or 6 wrong additions, and these words appended, "Bones his pile." "I can't make heads or tails of this," said Dr. Livesley. "The thing is as clear as noonday," cried the squire. "This is the black-hearted hound's account book. These crosses stand for the names of ships or towns that they sank or plundered. The sums are the scoundrel's share, and where he feared an inambiguity, you see, he added something clearer. Offe Cascas. Now, you see, here was some unhappy vessel boarded off that coast. God help the poor souls that manned her. Coral, long ago." I'd say they just wish to steal each other's thunder. Pride of the seas and all that, but in a friendly manner. That makes sense. "Right," said the doctor. "See what it is to be a traveller, right. And these amounts increase, you see, as he rose in rank." There was little else in the volume but a few bearings of places noted in the blank leaves towards the end, at a table for reducing French, English, and Spanish moneys into a common value. "Thrifty man," cried the doctor. "He wasn't one to be cheated." "And now," said the squire, "for the other. The piece of paper." "The map!" The doctor opened the seals with great care, and there fell out the map of an island. Oh. The paper had been sealed in several places with a thimble by way of seal. The very thimble, perhaps, that I had found in the captain's pocket. The doctor opened the seals with great care, and there fell out the map of an island, with latitude and longitude soundings, names of hills and bays and inlets, and every particular that would be needed to bring a ship to a safe anchorage upon its shores. It was about 9 miles long and 5 across, shaped, you might say, like a fat dragon standing up, and had 2 fine landlocked harbours, and a hill in the centre part marked the Spyglass. There were several editions of a later date, but above all 3 crosses of red ink, 2 on the north part of the island, 1 in the southwest, and beside this last, in the same red ink, and in a small neat hand, very different from the captain's tottery characters, these words: "Bulk of treasure here, X marks the spot. We'll get the origin, because this is where X marks the spot comes from, right? Isn't it? Is anyone going to actually say that? Is someone going to say the thing? Great illustration, similar to the Romanticism era of illustrated philosophy. Oh, we got a scholar in the chat. He knows things. And I am happy to learn things. Very fascinating. Tall tree, spyglass solder, bearing point to the N of NNE. Skeleton Island, SESE, and by E, 10 feet. The bar silver in the north cache. You can find it by the trend of the east hammock, 10 fathoms south of the black crag, with the face on it. The arms are easy found in the sandhill N point of the north inlet cape, bearing E and a quarter N. That was all. But brief as it was, and to me incomprehensible, it filled the squire and Dr. Livesley with delight. Livesley, said the squire, you will give up this wretched practice tomorrow. Tomorrow I start for Bristol in 3 weeks' time. 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 10 days. We'll have the best ship, sir, and the choicest crew in England. Hawkins shall become as cabin boy. You'll make a famous cabin boy. Hawkins, you, Livesley, are the ship's doctor. I am admiral. We'll take Redruth, Joyce, and Hunter. We'll have favourable winds, a quick passage, and not the least difficulty in finding the spot, and money to eat, to roll in to play duck and drake with ever after. Trelawney, said the doctor, I'll go with you, and I'll go bail for it. So will Jim, and be a credit to the undertaking. There's only one man I'm afraid of. And who's that? Cried the squire. Name the dog, sir. You, replied the doctor, for you cannot hold your tongue. We are not the only men who know of this paper. These fellows who attacked the inn tonight, bold, desperate blades for sure, and the rest who stayed aboard that lugger and more, I dare say not far off, are one and all through thick and thin, bound that they'll get that money. Name that dog. I name him Fido. Is that why they made this character a dog in Treasure Planet? Name that dog, sir. It's you. That Treasure Planet character who is a mix of Trelawney and Livesley in one. These fellows who attacked the inn tonight, bold, desperate blades for sure, and the rest who stayed aboard that lugger, and more, I dare say, not far off, are one and all, through thick and thin, bound that they'll get that money. We must none of us go alone till we get to the sea. Jim and I shall stick together. In the meanwhile, you'll take Joyce and Hunter when you ride to Bristol. And from first to last, not one of us must breathe a word of what we've found. I think it actually is similar to the reason. Oh yeah, it's Scurvy Dog. That's true. Oh hey, he's got a spoon. Is he gonna cook us food? Is he gonna cook his parrot? He's gonna cook us chicken. Livesley, returned the squire, you always in the right of it. I'll be as silent as the grave. Immediately told everyone. Part 2, the sea cook. Silver. It was longer than the squire imagined ere we were ready for the sea, and none of our first plans, not even Dr. Livesley's of keeping me beside him, could be carried out as we intended. The doctor had to go to London for a physician to take charge of his practice. The squire was hard at work at Bristol, and I lived on at the hall under the charge of old Redruth, the gamekeeper, almost a prisoner, but full of sea dreams and the most charming anticipations of strange islands and adventures. I brooded by the hour together over the map, all the details of which I well remembered. Sitting by the fire in the housekeeper's room, I approached that island in my fancy from every possible direction. I explored every acre of its surface. I climbed 1,000 times to the tall hill they called the Spyglass, and from the top enjoyed the most wonderful and changing prospects. Sometimes the isle was thick with savages, with whom we fought, sometimes full of dangerous animals that hunted us. But in all my fancies, nothing occurred to me so strange and tragic as our actual adventures. I love it when books do that. Percy Jackson does that. Where they get a bit of a chapter and like, nothing turned out right. This was the last time I saw my mum all year, kind of shit. So the weeks passed on till one fine day there came a letter addressed to Dr. Livesley, with this addition: to be opened in case of his absence by Tom Redruth or young Hawkins. Obeying this order, we found, or rather I found, for the gamekeeper was a poor hand at reading anything but print, the following important news. Old Anchor in Bristol, March 1st, 17 redacted. Dear Livesley, as I do not know whether you are at the Hall or still in London, I send this in double to both places. Lovecraft had some moments like that, although it was more for tension and terror, and terror of mystery. Oh, good. The ship is bought and fitted, she lies at anchor ready for sea. You never imagined a sweeter schooner. A child might sail her. 200 tons, named Hispaniola? I got her through my old friend, Blandly. He's so bland or blandly. Who has proved himself throughout the most surprising trump. The admirable fellow literally slaved in my interest, and so, I may say, did everyone in Bristol as soon as they got wind of the port we sailed for. Treasure, I mean. We gave him one job. Trelawney, you had one job. Not to tell people where we were going. I knew he was going to, because that's how the story goes. But that doesn't mean I'm not mad about it. I hoped I was wrong. This is the original story. I know Treasure Planet. Redruth, I said, interrupting the letter. Dr. Livesley will not like that. The squire has been talking after all. Well, who's better, right? Growled the gamekeeper. A pretty rum go if squire ain't to talk for Dr. Livesley, I should think. At that I gave up all attempts at commentary and read straight on. First I need to drink. Blandly himself found the Hispaniola, and by the most admirable management got her for the merest trifle. There is a class of men in Bristol monstrously prejudiced against Blandly. They go the length of declaring that his honest creature would do anything for money, that the Hispaniola belonged to him, and that he sold it to me absurdly high. Oh God, it's worse than we thought. Loose his promises are, but I suppose it's how it was back in the day, where pillaging and brute force reigned supreme. Yeah, and he's excited for all that money, I get it. Uh-oh. gotta get rid of a bot. 1 second. Die, bot. Anyway. At that, I gave up. The most transparent calumnies, none of them dare, however, to deny the merits of the ship. So far, there was not a hitch. The workpeople, to be sure, riggers and what not, were most annoyingly slow, but time cured that. It was the crew that troubled me. I wished a round score of men, in case of natives, buccaneers, or the odiot, or worse, the French. Or the odious French. Goddamn the French. And I had the worry of the deuce itself to find so much as half a dozen, till the most remarkable stroke of fortune. Oh my, what a remarkable stroke of fortune! Brought me the very man I required. I was standing on dock when by the merest accident I fell in talk with him. I found he was an old sailor, kept a public house, knew all the seafaring men in Bristol. Had lost his health ashore, and wanted a good berth as cook to get to sea again. Baguette makers. Oh my god, not the baguette makers. They're the worst. They lure you in with the smelling of fresh baked bread, and then inside the baguette is a dagger. There's a reason why Trelawney is played by Fuzzy Bear in the Muppets. Makes sense. He had hobbled down there that morning, he said, to get a smell of the salt. I was monstrously touched, so you would have been, and out of pure pity I engaged him on the spot to be ship's cook. Long John Silver, he is called, and had lost a leg, but that I regarded as a recommendation, since he lost it in his country's service under the immortal Hawke. He has no pension, Livesley. Imagine the abominable age we live in. Yeah, let's not dig into that. Well, sir, I thought I had only found a cook, but it was a crew I had discovered. Between Silver and myself, we got together in a few days a company of the toughest old salts imaginable. Not pretty to look at, but fellows, by their faces, of the most indomitable spirit. I dare we could fight a frigate. Long John even got rid of 2 of the 6 or 7 I had already engaged. Piss off, you know who I am. He showed me in a moment that they were the sort of freshwater swabs we had to fear in an adventure of importance. I am in the most magnificent health and spirits, eating like a bull, sleeping like a tree, yet I shall not enjoy a moment till I hear my old tarpaulins tramping around the capstan. Seaward, ho! Hang the treasure! It's the glory of the sea that has turned my head. So now, Livesley, come post. Do not lose an hour if you respect me. Let young Hawkins go at once to see his mother with Redruth for a guard, and then both come full speed to Bristol. John Trelawney. Postscript. I did not tell you that Bandley, who, by the way, is to send a consort after us, if we don't turn up by the end of August, had found an admirable fellow for sailing master, A stiff man, which I regret, but in all other respects a treasure. Long John Silver unearthed a very competent man for a mate, a man named Arrow. I have a boatswain who pipes lively, so things shall go, man o' war, fashion on board the good ship Hispaniola. I forgot to tell you that Silver is a man of substance. I know of my own knowledge that he has a banker's account, which has never been overdrawn. He leaves his wife to manage the inn, and as she is a woman of colour, a pair of old bachelors like you and I may be excused for guessing that it is the wife, quite as much as the health, that sends him back to roving. That's questionable. JT. PPS. Hawkins may stay one night with his mother. JT. Bro keeps signing off and going, ooh, wait, one more thing. Ooh, wait, one more thing. You can fancy the excitement into which that letter put me. I was half beside myself with glee, and if I ever despised a man, it was old Tom Redruth, who could do nothing but grumble and lament. Any of the under gamekeepers would gladly have changed places with him, but such was not the squire's pleasure. And the old squire's pleasure was, like law among them all. Nobody but old Redruth would have dared so much as even to grumble. This is why contracts are written! Yes. Too bad our old JT ain't smart enough for this shite. The next morning he and I set out on foot for the Admiral Benbow, and there I found my mother in good health and spirits. The captain, who had so long been a cause of so much discomfort, was gone where the wicked cease of troubling. Silver canonically loves his hard wife. Yes. The squire had everything repaired, and the public rooms and the sign repainted, and had added some furniture. Above all, a beautiful armchair for mother in the bar. He had found her a boy as an apprentice, also so that she should not want help while I was gone. It was on seeing that boy that I understood for the first time my situation. I had thought up to that moment of the adventures before me, not of all the home that I was leaving, and now, at sight of this clumsy stranger who was to stay here in my place beside my mother, I had my first attack of tears. I'm afraid I led that boy a dog's life, for as he was new to the work, I had 100 opportunities of setting him right and putting him down, and I was not slow to profit by them. Ah, hugs! To say goodbye to mother and the cove, and to dear old Admiral Benbow. The night passed, and the next day, after dinner, Redruth and I were afoot again and on the road. I said goodbye to my mother, and the cove where I had lived since I was born, and the dear old Admiral Benbow, since he was repainted, no longer quite so dear. One of my last thoughts was of the captain, who had so often strode along the beach with his crooked hat, his sabre-cut cheek, and his old brass telescope. Next moment we had turned the corner, and my home was out of sight. That is a nice illustration. It's a really good one. The mail picked us up about dusk at the Royal George on the heath. I was wedged between Redruth and an old stout gentleman. In spite of the swift motion and the cold night air, I must have dozed a great deal from the very first, and then slept like a log up hill and down dale, through stage after stage, for when I was awakened at last, it was by a punch in the ribs. Oh, that's not a nice way to be woken up. and I opened my eyes to find that we were standing still before a large building in a city street, and that the day had already broke a long time. "Where are we?" I asked. "Bristol," said Tom. "Get down." Mr. Trelawney had taken up his residence in an inn far down the docks to superintend the work upon the schooner. Hither we had now to walk, and our way, to my great delight, lay along the quays beside the great multitude of ships of all sizes and rigs and nations. In one, sailors were at work. In another, there were men aloft high over my head, hanging to threads that seemed no thicker than a spider's. Though I had lived by the shore all my life, I seemed never to have been near the sea till then. The smell of tar and salt was something new. I saw the most wonderful figureheads that had all been far over the ocean. I saw, besides, many old sailors, with rings in their ears and whiskers curled in ringlets, and tarry pigtails, and their swaggering, clumsy sea-walk, and if I had seen as many kings or archbishops, I could not have been more delighted. And I was going to see myself, to see in the schooner, with a piping boatswain and pigtailed singing seamen, to see, bound for an unknown island, and to seek for buried treasure. While I was still in this delightful dream, we came suddenly in front of a large inn, and met Squire Trelawney, all dressed out like a sea officer, in stout blue cloth, coming out of the door with a smile on his face, and a capital imitation of a sailor's walk. "Here you are," he cried, "and the doctor came last night from London. Bravo! The ship's company complete." He is so excited to get traumatized. The good hero's dirty. He's got to be very excited for it before it can get ripped away. "Oh, sir," cried I, "when do we sail?" "Sail?" says he. "We sail tomorrow!" And it's all Trelawney's fault. Yeah. I feel like half of this book, like I said, this meme, like treasure planet, big book, treasure planet if Trelawney did better. What are we doing? Treasure planet if Trelawney wasn't in it. Time to meet Silver. Chapter 8. At the Sign of the Spyglass. When I had done breakfasting, the squire gave me a note addressed to John Silver, at the sign of the Spyglass, and told me I should easily find the place by following the line of the docks and keeping a bright lookout for a little tavern with a large brass telescope for sign. I set off, overjoyed at this opportunity to see some more of the ships and seamen, and picking my way among a great crowd of people and carts and bales, for the dock was now at its busiest, until I found the tavern in question. It was a bright enough place of entertainment. The sign was newly painted. The windows had neat red curtains. The floor was cleanly sanded. There was a street on each side and an open door on both, which made the large, low room pretty clear to see in spite of the clouds of tobacco smoke. The customers were mostly seafaring men, and they talked so loudly that I hung the door, almost afraid to enter. As I was waiting, a man came out of a side room, and at a glance I was sure he must be Long John. His left leg was cut off close by the hip, and under the left shoulder he carried a crutch, while he managed, with wonderful dexterity, hopping about upon it like a bird. He was very tall and strong, with a face as big as a ham, plain and pale, but intelligent and smiling. Indeed, he seemed in the most cheerful spirits, whistling as he moved about among the tables, with a merry word or a slap on the shoulder for the more favoured of his guests. Now, to tell you the truth, from the very first mention of Long John in Squire Trelawney's letter, I had taken a fear in my mind that he might prove to be the very one-legged sailor whom I had watched for so long at the old Benbow. But one look at the man before me was enough. I had seen the captain, and Black Dog, and the blind man Pew, and I thought I knew what a buccaneer was like. A very different creature, according to me, from this clean and pleasant-tempered landlord. My sweet boy. My sweet boy. I think the long in Long John Silver refers to long pig, the old-timey term for human flesh. Pretty scary to have a cook named that. It might. That's terrifying if that's the case. And also that would probably put a lot of people, like, obviously we're reading it, we know the story. We know that Long John Silver is the guy. But I guess that's one of the hints maybe for the ye old-timey people who are reading this. Why are they calling him Long John Silver? That's a bit weird. That's a bit of a strange name. Maybe that's a hint as to his nefarious nature. I plucked up courage at once, crossed the threshold, and walked right up to the man where he stood, propped on his crutch, talking to a customer. "Mr. Silver, sir?" I asked, holding out the note. "Yes, my lad, such is my name, to be sure. And who may you be?" And then he saw the squire's letter. He seemed to give me something almost like a start. "Oh!" said he, quite loud, and offering his hand. "I see. You're our new cabin boy. Pleased to see you." He took my hand in his large, firm grasp. Just then one of the customers at the far side rose suddenly and made for the door. It was close by him, and he was out in the street in a moment. But his hurry had attracted my notice, and I recognized him at a glance. It was the tallow-faced man, wanting 2 fingers, who had come first to the Admiral Benbow. Oh my. "Oh," I cried, "stop him, it's the Black Dog!" That's why he ran away as soon as he realized it. Ran! That was quick. Yeah. "Oh," I cried, "stop him! It's the Black Dog!" "I don't care 2 coppers who he is," cried Silver, "but he hasn't paid his score. Harry, run and catch him." One of the others, who was nearest the door, leapt up and started in pursuit. If he were Admiral Hawke, he shall pay his score," cried Silver, and then, relinquishing my hand, "Who did you say he was?" he asked. "Black what?" "Dog, sir," said I. "Has Mr. Trelawney not told you of the buccaneers? He was one of them." "So," cried Silver, "in my house? Ben, run and help Harry. One of those swabs, was he? Was that you drinking with him, Morgan? Step up here. Mr. Morgan Spice himself." Looks like I have to go, but it's been a nice stream. Well, thank you so much for coming, Lucas. I hope you have a wonderful day. I will be reading this more. I usually read on Sundays, but because I have a big collab on Sunday, I swapped it to Thursday so that we could still read some because it's been a while. So if you did enjoy this, please pop back again. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye. The man, whom he called Morgan, an old grey-haired, mahogany-faced sailor, came forward, pretty sheepishly rolling his quid. "Now, Morgan," said Long John very sternly, "you never clapped your eyes on that black dog before, did you now?" Not I, sir," said Morgan with a salute. "You didn't know his name, did you?" "No, sir." "By the powers, Tom Morgan, it's as good for you," exclaimed the landlord. "If you had been mixed up with the likes of that, you would never have put another foot in my house. You may lay to that. And what was he saying to you?" "Best wishes to you all, and may ye talk with ye old language of the 1500s, or how cats speak to shake a leg in the 1900s. I love those memes of cats talking like Victorian children. Sorry, it might seem random, but your comment made me think of that. Mother is unyielding. "I know rightly, sir," answered Morgan. "Do you call that head on your shoulders, or a blessed dead eye?" cried Long John. "Don't rightly know, don't ya? Perhaps you don't happen to rightly know who you was speaking to, perhaps? Come on, what was he doing? Vaggers, captains, ships, pipe up, what was it?" We were talking a keel-hauling," answered Morgan. "Keel-hauling, was you? And a mighty suitable thing, too. And you may lay to that. Get back to your place for a lubber, Tom." And then, as Morgan rolled back to his seat, Silver added to me in a confidential whisper that was very flattering, as I thought, "He's quite an honest man, Tom Morgan, only stupid. And now," he ran on again aloud, "let's see, Black Dog? No, I won't know the name, not I. Yet I kind of think I've seen the swab. He used to come here with a blind beggar, he used to. Keel all the da. Is that, what was that pirate band? It's probably in a few pirate bands, but like there was one I used to listen to. Ailstorm! That was it. Ailstorm has a keel-hauling song. Keel-haul. "That he did, you may be sure," said I. "I knew that blind man too. His name was Pew." "It was!" cried Silver, now quite excited. "Pew! That were his name for certain. He looked like a shark, he did. If we run down this Black Dog now, there'll be news for Captain Trelawney. Ben's a good runner. Few seamen run better than Ben. He should be running him down, hand over hand, by the powers. Talking old keel-hauling, did he? I'll keel-haul him." Ben's the robot in the movie. All the time he was jerking out these phrases, he was stumping up and down the tavern on his crutch, slapping tables with his hands and giving such a show of excitement as would have convinced an Old Bailey judge or a Bow Street runner. My suspicions had been thoroughly reawakened on finding Black Dog at the spyglass, and I watched the cook narrowly, but he was too deep and too ready and too clever for me, and by the time the two men had come back out of breath and confessed that they had lost the track in the crowd, and been scolded like thieves, I would have gone bail for the innocence of Long John Silver. "See here now, Hawkins," said he. "Here's a blessed hard thing on a man like me. Now, ain't it? There's Captain Trelawney. What's he to think? Here I have this confounded son of a Dutchman sitting in my own house, drinking my own rum. Here you comes and tells me of it plain, and here I let him give us all the slip before my blessed daylights. Now, Hawkins, You do me justice with the captain. You're a lad, you are, but you're as smart as a paint. But you're as smart as paint. Is paint smart? Is that a compliment? I don't know. I see what when you first come in. Now here it is. What could I do with this old timber hobble on? When I was an A.B. Master Mariner, I'd have come up alongside him, hand over hand, and broached him to a brace of old shackles. Hello, Snowtacker. It's been a while. Welcome. I would, but now. And then, all of a sudden, he stopped. His jaw dropped, as though he remembered something. The score! He burst out. 3 goes a rum! Why, shiver me timbers, if I hadn't forgotten my score! The falling on the bench, he laughed until the tears ran down his cheeks. I could not help joining, and we laughed together, peal after peal, until the tavern ran again. Why, what a precious old sea-calf I am, he said at last, wiping his cheeks. You and me should get along well, Hawkins, for I'll take my dairy I should be right ship's boy. But come now, stand by to go out. This won't do. Duty is duty, messmates. I'll put on my old cockerel hat and step along of you to Captain Trelawney and report this here affair. For, mind you, it's serious, young Hawkins, and neither you nor me's come out of it with what I should make so bold as to call credit. Nor you neither, says you, not smart. None of the pair of us smart. But dash my buttons, that was a good un about my score. Friendship. I have. Oh, I've started keeping track of a lot of the webtoons and comics that I read, and that's helping a lot. And he began to laugh again, and that so heartily that I thought I could not see the joke as he did. I was again obliged to join him in his mirth. It's like, I have no idea what's going on here. Let's awkwardly laugh. Ha 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 ha. On our little walk along the quays, he made himself the most interesting companion, telling me about the different ships that we were passing by, their rig, tonnage, and nationality, explaining the work that was going forward, how one was discharging, another taking cargo, and a third making ready for sea, and every now and then telling me some little anecdote of ships or seamen, or repeating a nautical phrase till I had learnt it perfectly. I began to see that there was one of the best possible shipmates. That here was one of the best possible shipmates. It's amazing how these salty and pirates are easier to understand than just because if they were written the way they actually spoke, I would have given up on this book. John, Silver has no reservations to talking to children about seamen. It's just the way it is. This child has seen so many seamen, so much seamen. I was trying not to make a joke about that. You started it, for the record. For the record. It was Normal Size Phantom's fault. When we got to the inn, the squire and Dr. Livesley were seated together, finishing a quart of ale with a toast in it, before they should go abroad to the schooner on a visit of inspection. Long John told the story from first to last, with a great deal of spirit and the most perfect truth. What was his... That was how it were. Now, weren't it, Hawkins? He would say, now and again, and I could always bear him entirely out. Couldn't help myself. The two gentlemen regretted that Black Dog had gotten away, but we all agreed there was nothing to be done. And after he had been complimented, Long John took up his crutch and departed. "All hands aboard by 4 this afternoon," he shouted the squire after him. "Aye, aye, sir," cried the cook in the passage. "Well, squire," said Dr. Livesey, "I don't put much faith in your discoveries, but a general thing. But I will say this, John Silver suits me." "The man's a perfect trump," declared the squire. "And now," added the doctor, "Jim may come on board with us, may he not?" "To be sure he may," says squire. "Take your hat, Hawkins, and we shall see the ship." Da da da. Chapter 9. Powder and Arms. The Hispaniola lay some way out, and we went under the figureheads and round the sterns of many other ships, and their cables sometimes grated underneath our keel, and sometimes swung above us. At last, however, we got alongside, and were met and saluted as we stepped aboard by the mate, Mr. Arrow, a brown old sailor with earrings in his ears and a squint. He and the other squire were very thick and very friendly, but I soon observed that things were not the same between Mr. Trelawney and the captain. The last was a sharp-looking man who seemed angry with everything on board, and was soon to tell us why, for we had hardly got down into the cabin when a sailor found us. "Captain Smollett, sir, axing to speak with you," said he. "I am always at captain's orders. Show him in," said the squire. The captain, who was close behind his messenger, entered at once, and shut the door behind him. "Well, Captain Smollett, what have you to say? All well, I hope? All shipshape and seaworthy?" "Well, sir," said the captain, "better speak plain. I believe, even at the risk of offence, I don't like this cruise, I don't like the men, and I don't like my officer. That's short and sweet." "Perhaps, sir, you don't like the ship?" inquired the squire, very angry, as I could see. "I can't speak as to that, sir. I have not seen her tried." "And the captain?" said the captain. "She seems a clever craft. More I can't say." "Possibly, sir, you may not like your employer either," says the squire. "No, but I will." Oh, sorry, that yawn entirely snuck up on me. Holy duck. But here Dr. Livesey cut in. "Stay a bit," said he. Stay a bit. No use of such questions as that, but to produce ill feeling. The captain has said too much, or he has said too little, and I'm bound to say that I require an explanation of his words. You don't, you say, like this cruise. Now, why?" "I was engaged, sir, on what we call sealed orders to sail this ship for that gentleman, were he should bid me," said the captain. "So far, so good, but now I find that every man before the mast knows more than I do. I don't call that fair, now, do you?" "No," said Livesey, "I don't." "Next," said the captain, "I learn we are going after treasure. Hear it from my own hands, mind you. Now, treasure is ticklish work. I don't like treasure voyages on any account, and I don't like them. Above all, when they are secret, and when, Begging your pardon, Mr. Trelawney. The secret has been told to the parrot. Silver's parrot? Asked the squire. Its way of speaking, said the captain. Blabbed, I mean. It's my belief that neither of you gentlemen know what you are about, but I'll tell you my way of it. Life or death, and a close run. That is all clear, and I dare say true enough, replied Dr. Livesley. We take the risk, but we are not so ignorant as you believe us. Next, you say you don't like the crew. Are they not good seamen? I don't like them, sir, returned Captain Smollett. And I think I should have had the choosing of my own hands, if you go to that. Perhaps you should, replied the doctor. My friend should perhaps have taken you along with him, but the slight, if there be one, was unintentional. And you don't like Mr. Arrow? I don't, sir. I believe he's a good seaman, but he's too free with his crew to be a good officer. A mate should keep himself to himself, shouldn't drink with the men before the mast. Do you mean he drinks? Cried the squire. No, sir, replied the captain, only that he's too familiar. Well, now, the short and long of it, captain, asked the doctor. Tell us what you want. Well, gentlemen, you are determined to go on this cruise? Like iron, replied the squire. Very good, said the captain. Then, as you've heard me very patiently, saying things I could not prove, hear me a few more words. They are putting the powder and the arms in the forehold. Now you have a good place under the cabin. Why not put them there? First point. Then you are bringing 4 of your own people with you, and they tell me some of them are to be berthed forward. Why not give them the berths here beside the cabin? Second point. Any more? Asked Mr. Trelawney. One more, said the captain. There's been too much blabbing already. Far too much. Trelawney, agreed the doctor. I'll tell you what I've heard myself, continued Captain Smollett, that you have a map of an island, and that there's crosses on the map to show where treasure is, and that the island lies, and then he named the latitude and longitude exactly. I never told that, cried the squire, to a soul. All hands know it, sir, returned the captain. Livesley, that must have been you or Hawkins, replied. Livesley, that must have been you or Hawkins, replied the squire. It doesn't much matter who it was, replied the doctor, and I could see. Oh my gosh, I'm yawning so much lately. I'm not tired, you're tired. We're all tired. Everyone's tired. No one's getting enough sleep. Ever. I get too much sleep, probably. That's probably my problem. I like to sleep. Which means I probably get too much. But it's fine. Trelawney is what we call in America diarrhea of the mouth. Indubitably. And I could see that neither he nor the captain paid much regard to Mr. Trelawney's protestations. Neither did I, to be sure. He was so loose a talker, yet in this case I believe he was really right, and that nobody had told the situation of the island. Well, gentlemen, continued the captain, I don't know who has this map, and I make it a point. It shall be kept secret even from me and Mr. Arrow. Otherwise, I would ask you to let me resign. Yes. I see, said the doctor. You wish to keep this matter dark, and to make a garrison of the stern part of the ship, manned with my friend's own people, and provide with all the arms and powder on board. In other words, you fear mutiny. Sir, said Captain Smollett, with no intention to take offence, I deny your right to put words into my mouth. No captain, sir, would be justified in going to sea at all if he had grounds enough to say that. As for Mr. Arrow, I believe him thoroughly honest. Some of the men are the same. All may be, for what I know, but I am responsible for the ship's safety, and the life of every man Jack aboard her. I see things going, as I think, not quite right, and I ask you take certain precautions or let me resign my berth, and that's all. Captain Smollett, began the doctor with a smile, did ever you hear the fable of the mountain and the mouse? You'll excuse me, I dare say, but you remind me of that fable. When you came in here, I'll stake my wig, you meant more than this. Doctor, said the captain, you are smart. When I came in here, I meant to get discharged. I had no thought that Mr. Trelawney would hear a word. No more I would, cried the squire. Had Livesley not been in here, I should have seen you to the deuce. As it is, I have heard you. I will do as you desire, but I think the worse of you. That's as you please, sir, said the captain. You'll find I do my duty. And with that he took his leave. Trelawney, said the doctor, contrary to all my notions, I believe you have managed to get 2 honest men on board with you, that man and John Silver. What? Mutiny in the Forbidden Library, Friday's the God. No! Don't say that, don't say that, don't say that. He might... I don't want him to react to that, okay? Fort won't like that. Don't say that. Tea fairies, don't tell him, okay? Don't tell him. Mutiny cannot be done. What? The deuce. Deuce. Oh my god, I can't stop yawning! Oh no, that's okay, Boris. You look. Chill out. Chill out and listen to a story. Have a tea or a coffee and get a blanket and everything will be fine. Him and John Silver, completely honest people. Yes, honest. Silver, if you like, cried the squire. But as for that intolerable humbug, I declare I think his conduct unmanly. Blah! Some funds for the mutiny. Bleh. Also, Perfect World. Good book. Good book. I'm so mad that all. The only thing about supporting indies is when they give up. Because one of my favourite authors has literally just given up recently, and there's no word on their socials. Their books are still around, but I'll never know what's gonna happen. And they were like my favourites. Sorry. Seeing Shari's book made me think about that. I need to look if she got another one. I know, right? It's the worst. Shari Sakurai isn't the one that's given up. She's the one who did Perfect World there, but I also want more of that. Two gay boys, post-apocalyptic. It's wonderful. What we got? Menu. Offer. Novels. No, she hasn't done another one yet. God damn it. Sorry. I got really distracted for a minute. Anyway. I got the feeling an author of a nice slow bun story stops due to life things. I've been checking every every once in a while. Yeah, it's the way. There's probably people like that who feel the same about me and Moon Girl. I think Void feels like that. I'm sad about it, but I'm also doing it to people. That's what we get. That's what we get. It's fine. This is fine. Downright un-English. I declare, I think his conduct is unmanly, unsailorly, and downright un-English. I think his conduct was very English, to be honest. Well, says the doctor, we shall see. Oh, sorry. Got some gears. When we came on deck, the men had begun already to take out the arms and powder, yo-hoing at their work, while the captain and Mr. Arrow stood by superintending. The new arrangement was quite to my liking. The whole schooner had been overhauled. 6 berths had been made astern out of what had been the after part of the main hold, and this set of cabins was only joined to the galley and forecastle by a spared passage on the port side. It had been originally meant that the captain, Mr. Arrow, Hunter, Joyce, the doctor, and the squire were to occupy these 6 berths. Now Redruth and I were getting 2 of them, and Mr. Arrow and the captain were to sleep on deck in the companion, which had been enlarged on each side till you might almost have called it a round house. Very low it was still, of course, but there was room to swing 2 hammocks, and even the mate seemed pleased with the arrangement. Even he, perhaps, had been doubtful as to the crew, but that is only guess. For, as you shall hear, we had not long the benefit of his opinion. We were all hard work, changing the powder and the berths, and the last man or 2, the Long John along with them, came off in a shore boat. The cook came up the side like a monkey for cleverness, and as soon as he saw what I was doing, "Yo-ho, mates," says he, "what's this?" "We're a-changing of the powder, Jack," answers one. "Why, by the powers," cried Long John, "if we do, we'll miss the morning tide." "My orders," said the captain shortly. "You may go below, my man. Hans will want supper." "Aye, aye, sir," answered the cook, and touching his forelock, he disappeared at once in the direction of his galley. "That's a good man, Captain," said the doctor. "Very likely, sir," replied Captain Smollett. "Easy with that man, with men easy." He ran on to the fellows who were shifting the powder, and then suddenly observing me examining the swivel we carried amidships, a long brass 9. "Here, you, ship's boy," he cried out. "Out of that! Off with you to the cook. Get some work." How dare you just be fucking around? Go do some stuff. And then I was hurrying off. I heard him say quite loudly to the doctor, "I'll have no favourites on my ship." I assure you I was quiet of the squire's way of thinking, and hated the captain deeply. He just wants to show you a real ship, boy. 10. Chapter 10. We have only 10 minutes left. How big is chapter 10? Pretty big. We may want to maybe put it off. I can always highlight where we're up to. Meh. Chapter 10, The Voyage. All night we were in a great bustle, getting things sewed in their place, and boatfuls of the Squire's friends, Mr. Blandley and the like, coming off to wish him a good voyage and a safe return. We never had a night at the Admiral Benbow, where I had half the work, and I was dog-tired when, a little before dawn, the boatsman sounded his pipe, and the crew began to man the capstan bars. I might have been twice as weary, yet I would not have left the deck. All was so new and interesting to me. The brief commands, the shrill note of the whistle, and the men bustling to their places in the glimmer of the ship's lanterns. Captain was a lot less intimidating when he was played by Kermit the Frog. We should definitely read some more things that the Muppets have done. Yes, I can't do a Kermit voice. I was gonna try, but then I was like, do I even remember what Kermit sounded like? Oh, jeez. I don't know. Can't do it. "Now, Barbecue, tip us a stave," cried one voice. "The old one," cried another. "Aye, aye, mates," said Long John, who was standing by with his crutch under his arm, and at once broke out in the air, and words I knew well. 15 men on the dead man's chest," and then the whole crew bore a chorus. "Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum." At the third hoe drove the bars before them with a will. Even at the exciting moment it carried me back to the old Admiral Benbow in a second, and I seemed to hear the voice of the captain piping in the chorus. But soon the anchor was short up, soon it was hanging, dripping at the bows. Soon the sails began to draw, and the land and shipping to flirt by on either side, and before I could lie down to snatch an hour of slumber, the Hispaniola had begun her voyage to the Isle of Treasure. No, that's Morty. That is Morty. Oh, jeez. And I am going to relate that voyage in detail. It was fairly prosperous, not preposterous. The ship proved to be a good ship. The crew were capable seamen, and the captain thoroughly understood his business. But before we came the length of Treasure Island, 2 or 3 things had happened which required to be known. Mr. Arrow, first of all, turned out even worse than the captain had feared. This is very different. Like, obviously with the Mr. Arrow in Treasure Island was like a very competent man. He had no command among the men, and people did what they pleased with him. But that was by no means the worst of it. For after a day or 2 at sea, he began to appear on deck with hazy eyes, red cheeks, stuttering tongue, and other marks of drunkenness. Time after time, he was ordered below in disgrace. Sometimes he fell and cut himself. Sometimes he lay all day long in his little bunk at one side of the companions. Sometimes, for a day or 2, he would be almost sober and attend to his work, at least passably. And in the Muppets, he was Sam the American Eagle. A drunk eagle. In the meantime, we would never make out where he got the drink. That was the ship's mystery. Watch him as we pleased, we could do nothing to solve it. And when we asked him to his face, he would only laugh when he were drunk, and if he were sober, deny solemnly that he ever tasted anything but water. Wait, is he having seawater? Is someone, like, spiking his water with seawater? He was not only useless as an officer and a bad influence amongst the men, but it was plain that at the rate he must soon kill himself outright. So nobody was much surprised, nor very sorry, when one dark night, with a head sea, he disappeared entirely, and was seen no more. Holy shit! Is that really how he goes in this? We don't know what happened. He just went poof one day. I don't even know. Really? The level of fucks given, 0. Overboard! Said the captain. Well, gentlemen, that saves us the trouble of putting him in irons. What? Oh no, he's overboard. Oh no, look at him flying away there. Oh no, whatever shall we do? Such a terrible time. Anyway. But there we were, without a mate, and it was necessary, of course, to advance one of the men. The boatswain, Job Anderson, was the likeliest man aboard, and though he kept his old title, he served in a way as mate. Oh no! Anyway. Mr. Trelawney had followed the sea, and his knowledge made him very useful, for he often took a watch himself in easy weather, and the coxswain, Israel Hands, was a careful, wily, old, experienced seaman who could be trusted at a pinch with almost anything. He was a great confidant of Long John Silver, and so the mention of his name leads me to speak of our ship's cook, Barbecue, as the men called him. Aboard the ship, he carried his crutch by a lanyard round his neck, and to have both hands free as possible, it was something to see him wedge the foot of the crutch against a bulkhead, and propped against it, yielding to every movement of the ship, get on with his cooking like someone safe ashore. Still more strange was it to see him in the heaviest of weather across the deck. He had a line or two rigged up to help him across the widest spaces. Long John's earrings, they were called, and he would hand himself one place to another, now using the crutch, now trailing it alongside by the lanyard, as quickly as another man could walk. Yet some of the men who had sailed with him before expressed their pity to see him so reduced. "He's no common man, Barbecue," said the coxswain to me. 1 second, I need to blow my nose. But he had good schooling in his young days, and can speak like a book when so minded, and brave. A lion's nothing alongside of Long John. I seen him grapple 4 and knock their heads together, him unharmed. All the crew respected and even obeyed him. He had a way of talking to each and doing everybody some particular service. To me he was unweariedly kind, and always glad to see me in the gallery. In the galley, which he kept as clean as a new pin, the dishes hanging up, burnish, and his parrot in a cage in one corner. "Come away, Hawkins," he would say. "Come and have a yarn with John. Nobody more welcome than yourself, my son. Sit you down and hear the news. Here's Captain Flint. I call my parrot Captain Flint after the famous buccaneer. Here's Captain Flint predicting success of our voyage. What's it you, Captain?" And the parrot would say with great rapidity, "Pieces of 8! Pieces of 8! Pieces of 8!" Till you wondered that it was not out of breath, or till John threw his handkerchief over the cage. "Now that bird," he would say, "is Maybe 200 years old, Hawkins. They live forever, mostly. And if anybody's seen more wickedness, it will be the devil himself. She's sailed with England, the great Captain England, the pirate. She's been at Madagascar, and at Malabar, and Suriname, and Providence, and Portobello. She was at the fishing up of the wreckage plate ships. It's there she learned pieces, mate. And little wonder, 350,000 of 'em, Hawkins. She was at the boarding of the Viceroy of the Indies out in Goa. She was. And to look at her, you would think she was a babby. But you smelt powder, didn't you, Captain? Stand by! Go about! The parrot would scream. Ah, she's a handsome craft, she is, the cook would say, and give her sugar from his pocket, and then the bird would peck at the bars and swear straight out, passing belief for wickedness. There, John would add, you can't touch pitch and not be muck glad. There's this poor old innocent bird of mine swearing blue fire, and none the wiser. You may lay to that. She would swear the same in a manner of speaking before Chaplain. And John would touch his forelock with a solemn way he had that made me think he was the best of men. If you ever heard of the show Black Sails, it's a prequel to this book, showing how Captain Flint and Long John Silver met. I did start that one. I have the Duh. I got given it randomly as a birthday present. I don't know why they wanted me to watch it, but they did. I was put off by the titties at the start, though, because I'm an innocent beaten, and I find that very uncomfortable. Put your shirts on, ladies, please. In the meantime, the Square and Captain Smollett were still on pretty decent terms with one another. The Squire made no bones about the matter. He despised the Captain. The Captain, on his part, never spoke, but when he was spoken to, and then sharp and short and dry, and not a word wasted. He owned, when driven into a corner, that he seemed to have been wrong about the crew, that some of them were as brisk as he wanted to see, and all had behaved. Hydrate, I will. Probably should do. I think I need to hydrate every time Silver talks. Thank you, Richter. He owned, when driven into a corner, that he seemed to have been wrong about the crew, that some of them were as brisk as he wanted to see, and all had behaved fairly well. As for the ship, he had taken a downright fancy to her. She'll lie a point nearer the wind than a man has a right to expect of his own married wife, but, he would add, all I say is, we're not home again. I don't like the cruise. The Squire, at this, would turn away and march up and down the deck, chin in the air. A trifle more, that man, he would say. I shall explode! And explode he will. Next stream! Because today we're done. So just stretch it. Blah. The most dramatic stretch you've ever heard. But that is all for today. We're 26% of the way through this book, so we've got a little bit of way to go. Hopefully next week this should be on Sunday again. Obviously it's on Thursday because we have a very cool, a very amazing collab. I've never collabed with more than one person at once. This will be my very first time. We're going to play Goose Goose Duck. I'm terrible at social deduction games. I'm very, very bad at them. So that should be hilarious. We have the amazing people of Staccato Project joining us, Richter being one of them. He's in the Twitch chat at the moment. So if you want to say hi, you should say hi. Maiden apparently may not be with us, our wonderful founder of the Staccato Project. Yeah, I get to collab with people now. I'm going to talk to other VTubers and be sociable. And it's going to be great. And I'm going to murder them. Maybe. I don't know. I've never played Goose Duck. I need to look it up. I need to make sure I know what I'm doing when we go in. Otherwise, I'm just going to be like, how do? How do? What is the game? I am duck. I am goose. I do things. But that is Sunday's problem. We do have Friday before then, so tomorrow I will be back with some nonnery. We're going to be doing some 999. We're going to go get our second ending. And hopefully I don't get murdered this time. I would like to actually survive to see the end. That would be great. I want to see the 9th door. Such great pros will be in Hololive in no time. Oh no. Oh no, they're scary. Hololive's scary. But full-time streaming is the dream. Hololive is a great place to try. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you, everyone in chat. Thank you, anyone in lurk. Thank you, anyone who watches the VOD. I really appreciate you coming and enjoying my content, no matter which way you decide to do it. If you have not already, I would highly appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you've already done that, you should join the Discord. And if you're on Twitch, you should also join the Discord. And you should also give my channel a cheeky little follow. That would be lovely. Just click that little heart, and I'll be and you. One heart is one smile from me. Anyway, let's stop being cheesy. If you would like to support me in ways of the money, if you have some to spare and you would like to support a small creator, I would appreciate that. You can do that in many ways. You can do that by YouTube membership, where you can get emotes, exclusive streams, Discord channel, merch discounts, and chat commands. You can do that via Patreon, where you get short stories, exclusive stream, merch discounts, and free books. There is the Kofi, where you can commission me to draw some emotes for you. And there is the small audiobooks in the shop. And last but not least, there is the merch store, where you can get some crochet potatoes. First, just go that. Hey, look, it's my book. I recommended my own book. Yay! Thank you, Normal Size Phantom. You're the best. Normal Size, best chatter. Where you can get crochet potatoes, ebooks, first copies of books that I've written, notebooks, and a pillow. Stickers too. You can get stickers. I have some stickers of my emotes. If you would like my emote on your water bottle with a sticker, go to my shop. Links are all in the description for all that much, but I will see you guys on Friday. But for now, I had fun. I hope you had fun. This has been Brandy West with Lines of Been Library. Goodbye. Wrong hand. I want to be able to use my mouse. There we go. Bye.